Welcome back to the SomerKnits podcast. This is a knitting and fiber related podcast, little bit of spinning, little bit of crochet occasionally, but mostly knitting focused. If it is your first time here, thank you so much for joining me. And if sometimes my words get all garbled. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. Today, I would like to dive into my four main active whips. I don't have any finished objects to show, and I have a tiny amount of acquisitions at the end. Hello, this is end of the episode, Summer, popping back to the beginning of the episode to let you know, if you've been around a while or you're new here, the third annual Holiday Joy Christmas or winter holiday card sign up is open and it is linked below, and there's a whole lot more about it at the end, but it is a sign up where you can just sign up, enter your mailing address, and I will send you a holiday card sometime in November, December. No obligation to return. It's just my way of sending joy and holiday magic out into the world. Like I said, there's more about it at the very end because totally spaced on talking about it. I have meant for the last 2 episodes to talk about it, but it is open, and I will also add the form to my link tree on Instagram. So recently I have taken on a number of test knits all at once. Not on purpose, it just happens. So the first test knit that I took on, I have shown you before, but that is the Weekday dress by Aimee Sher. And I am keeping it in what was a Farmhouse Sewing Cafe bag, but she has rebranded and her name is now Rows and Seams, and she can be found on Etsy. Oh, and I've got some fuzz on it. This dress still fits in this bag for now. We'll see if it continues to fit in this bag for much longer. I am knitting the Weekday dress in Onorok Air's Nutiden in the color, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, Favör, F-A-V-O-R. The Weekday dress also has a pullover version, but I'm doing the full length dress. It's not full length, it's a short dress, but I'm doing the full dress as opposed to the pullover. This design has cabled raglans, which I think just make it stand out a little bit. I stopped with the body and went ahead and put on the collar because I felt like it would give me a better idea of how the fit really was when I was trying it on, sorry, as I continue to knit the garment. And fairly soon, I keep telling myself I'm going to stop on the body. I think that I actually aimed my camera so that this is the side I'm supposed to hold things up to. Pretty soon, I'm going to pause on the body and put the sleeves on. But I've told myself that for the last 3 balls of Nutiden. So I haven't done it yet. It's just because the body is so easy to keep going on because it's stockinette. There are increases built in to give it an A-line shape if you want. Aimee Sher outlines all of the options in the pattern. There are bust dart instructions. There are even butt dart instructions if you get to that point and try it on and realize that it's lifting in the back because you need more room for your backside. And I think that that's really nice that she's gone to the trouble of offering all of these fit options. So I won't make a decision on butt darts until I get that far and try it on. So I have steam blocked the majority of the dress, and there's kind of a line, a ridge where I haven't as I keep going, but I keep blocking it to check that I'm still on gauge and check the length. I've kind of made myself a goal of how many inches per week I need to knit on the body in order to also allow myself time for the sleeves and the sleeve ribbing. And this one, I am doing the short sleeve version, so the sleeves should not take that long. It's just a matter of stopping and doing them so that I can stay on time for this test knit. It's due December 15th, so I still feel like I have quite a bit of time, but I know that everything between Halloween and Christmas goes by at warp speed, and I don't want to get to the point where I'm feeling stress over this. And so I feel like the way to do that with a long garment like a dress is to measure it and figure out, okay, as long as I do this much per week, I'm still on target and I will finish on time and I will have time for full blocking and photos and feedback forms and all those things that you do as a test knitter. I don't know if you can hear him, but my dog is pacing in the background and I may have to go let him out in a minute. This is only the second garment that I've knitted in Nutiden, and Aimee Sher's video with tips for knitting with unspun yarn has made knitting with Nutiden infinitely easier for me. So if you have not watched that video, I'll link it below, but it is great and made all the difference in the world, because my first garment, I was so frustrated with how easily the yarn pulled apart and things, and I was trying to knit straight from the plate and I didn't know that it is actually easier to wind it up into softball sized balls. And I do, because this is knit with it held double, I am winding it up double. I have not had the breakage problems on this that I had before. It's just been so much easier to work with, and I have enjoyed the process so much more. And I can't wait to wear this. I'm hoping that it will be, it's been hot here on Christmas before, like hot enough people wore shorts. I'm kind of hoping that it'll be not so freezing it's impossible to go outside, but cold enough that this unspun knit dress is appropriate for the weather. Because I can just picture it with tall boots, and I think it's such a neutral color that I can dress it up with colorful and festive accessories, and I think it would be great as my Christmas Eve dress to spend time with family. So that is the Weekday dress by Aimee Sher, and I'm not sure exactly what date the pattern will be released, but I do know that tester feedback is due, all finished items and everything, by December 15th. So keep an eye out for that if you are looking for a really fun wintertime project. I felt like the cable, and it's actually faux cable raglans. It's done with a lace chart. So there's no actual cabling. It's pretty easy. And I felt like it went by really fast. I felt like the yoke of this dress just flew by, no problems. So I'm really enjoying that one. And it's gotten to the point where, since it is just stockinette in the round, even though it's Nutiden, it has been my carry around project for the last couple of weeks, just because it is so easy to just sit down and do a few stitches or a few rows, depending on where I am and what I'm doing and what the kids are doing. Having the Nutiden pre-wound into softball sized balls means that I can just throw one or two in the bag and go. In fact, I have to take one of my kids to an appointment today, and I totally plan on bringing that with me and just keep going on it, just because it's at such an easy phase of the garment. My allergies have been terrible, and it is the first day that it actually looks like fall outside, so it's kind of damp and everything. So if my voice gets just the slightest bit croaky, I'm not sick, I'm just feeling the weather change. My next test knit that I started on, I was crossing my fingers so hard to get chosen for this one, because I have applied and applied for her test knits, and this is the first time I have been chosen. This bag actually came in my advent from last year. That was The Art of Contrast by Fiber Nymph, I think, Dye Works. I'll double check that. But the bag was one of the goodies from the advent. So I used the advent from the year before, so from 2021, to start this test knit for Rebecca Clow, also known as the Crea Bea. This is her Daft Days cardigan, and it's gonna be a little hard to show because I'm at the point where it's a big floppy mess. I have done both front panels, and I am currently working on the big back panel. As you can see, I have a million ends to weave in, and I know that some of the testers are using the Weave in Steven to weave their ends in, but I feel like it's so bulky on the back side, and I even notice it looking at the stitches from the front side, that I didn't want to do that. Like, I want this cardigan to be so perfect because I have hoarded this advent in hopes of like the most perfect pattern that I could just, something that I could just wear and wear and wear. And so I'm really excited about this rainbow cardigan. If you look at this front panel, you can see all the colors that I'm using. This would have actually been the final day, and I actually had to eliminate 4 colors because I only needed 20 body stripes. So the first color is somewhere between this one and this one that came in the advent, and I put it aside as my swing color. If I got to the top and my row gauge was such that I needed 1 more stripe than I knew I needed, like had done the math and figured out, say my row gauge had tightened up and I just didn't hit the measurements correctly, I had that 1 swing color that I could have put in at the top. But it actually, yay for math, it actually worked out absolutely just like the math said it should. I steam blocked this so many times and double checked and rechecked and redid my math to make sure that I was on track, because I was going to be devastated if I got all the way to the top and I needed like 2 more colors because it would have ruined my rainbow. I know that's a lot of pressure on a test knit, but I am just in love with how this looks, and I can't wait to wear it. It is so soft. I know I keep saying I hoarded this advent. This advent was Bright Rainbow by the Creative Knitter. She is a hand dyer and brick and mortar shop owner in Canada. And this was the bag that came with that advent. So I have all the colors still to use on the back in here, and all the colors that I have that I don't need again for the back in this bag. And that way when I get to the sleeves, and I keep tucking the ball bands back inside after I use each one, so that when I get to the sleeves, everybody still has their ball band and I don't have to double check if I'm knitting at night and it's dark-ish and some of the colors are close together, just so that everything stays lined up perfectly. I did not grab a full skein of this, but my main color is a natural merino. Let me see if I have a ball band. Probably not, because that would be way too easy. It's a natural merino from Ireland, from Aran Woolen Mills, and they are on Instagram. I will make sure to link them. It is just an undyed, natural, beautiful, soft and bouncy, non-superwash merino. And I wanted the non-superwash for the structure because the minis that I'm using are all superwash, and I just felt like that was going to be a lot of weight of superwash. So in order to combat that, I really wanted the non-superwash, and they're working fine together, and the swatch blocked out perfectly together. So my parents had gone to Ireland a while back and brought me back 4 or 5 skeins of this Aran Woolen Mills in this merino. And I was trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do with it. I could have done either a short sleeved pullover or a cropped pullover, but when this came out, I figured this with the bright pops from the Bright Rainbow would make an amazing cardigan. And I'm loving the way it feels. I love the way it knits up. This test knit is due November 20th. So it is due way before the Nutiden dress. And it started after the Nutiden dress. I think this was an 8-week test knit and that was a 12-week test knit. So I need to keep cracking on this one. And I've done the math and figured out how much I need to do per week to make sure I stay on target for this. And I really need to bust out this back panel because I want to have some wiggle room on making sure I have time for the button band and the sleeves. I just don't want to end up in a corner like with so much left to do that it feels like a weight upon me. So, you know, and you want time for a full blocking and good pictures and things like that when you're doing a test knit, especially, you know, for a designer where you've applied a bunch of times and this is your first time getting chosen, like you really want to put your best foot forward. I'm knitting everything exactly to pattern. I have not changed anything. Rebecca writes so clearly. I haven't had any issues with this pattern, and it's gonna come out in late November so that people can use it for Advents if they want to. So keep an eye out for that. There's a sister pattern that's a shawl that's done in fingering weight. This is DK or fingering held double. So the cardigan is DK, the shawl is fingering weight. It's the same stitch pattern, but the triangle shawl is beautiful, and I did not apply to test knit that because I had so much else on my plate because I had already started this. But I could see myself doing it in the future. And then one of Rebecca's other patterns that came out recently that I really want to do for my husband is the stick season. So hopefully in the new year, I actually cast that on for him. I know I keep saying I want to knit him something. I looked at the single malt and I looked at a few others. I like Aimee Sher's Matthew pullover. I actually have 2 different sweater quantities that I want to use for my husband. So I might do the Matthew pullover in the Nutiden that I have for him. And I have some Forest Lane Fiber Co. in a kind of a medium to darkish gray that could be good for the stick season. I think the stick season might be more doable for me than the single malt just because I tend to slow down and set aside all over texture if I'm not under a deadline. So I had applied to test knit the stick season thinking that having a deadline for myself could make me get that done for my husband, but I did not get selected for that one, and that's okay. When I saw this test call go out, I was like, oh yes, I would rather get that one. And so I put all of my fingers crossed out into the universe and got chosen for this one. So very excited. But I really do, you know, I think after 13 years of marriage and more than 15 years of being together as a couple that maybe I should knit him a sweater at some point, especially since I've bought 2 sweater quantities for him. So that was the Daft Days cardigan. Hopefully I said that. I know I feel rambly, but I think I always feel rambly when I'm podcasting, so I'm not super worried about that. But so that is test knit number 2. And for a while, that was like the only thing I was focusing on, because it felt so slow while I was doing the big flat panel before I could divide for the front and the back. Just because that flat panel is so long and you're purling back. So there's a lot of purling. Some people are knitting it inside out. Some people are even knitting it in the round and steeking. I was not that brave since the yarns I wanted to use, half of them were superwash. So, and I didn't want to have to do all the thinking to make myself able to knit it inside out. I wanted to just follow the pattern. So that's what I'm doing. I'm knitting the 4th size. And I am so excited to have that as part of my hand knit wardrobe. If you've been here for a while, you might remember that this year, oh goodness, my dog has contributed to the knitting. This year I am working on a temperature blanket. And it started out nice and tiny because I am using the excavation blanket pattern, and instead of weaving in ends, you're tying fringe as you go. And so it starts really tiny and you increase along both sides. This blanket is hard to contain, so it does end up on the ground and catches leaves from the dog and whatever. But this is all washable acrylic yarn, and I want it to be a super usable blanket for my family, so I'm not worried about it. Anyway, it started out tiny, and I was putting in markers January, February, another leaf, all the way through March, April, May, June. You can see how big it's getting. Okay, so it's massive, right? Because each row takes so long, I haven't been able to catch up every time we've like been away for the weekend or gone on vacation or whatever. So for a long time, I just tried to keep to 1 row a day because the diagonal for those middle months was so long. I don't regret this because I think it's going to turn out amazing, but I do think it's going to cover my king size bed more than adequately. And it's not for the bed, it's for snuggling the whole family under, which I also think will work really well. So anyway, you switch directions at the midpoint so that your fringe changes sides. So the first whole side of fringe from the start of the blanket to the midpoint was on one side, and then you switch directions of the knitting, and then your new fringe side starts the decreases. So I'm on the decreases, so every day the row gets faster, which is excellent. And I feel like by the time I finish September and I'm starting into October, I'll be to the point where I can do 2 rows a day because the rows have gotten much quicker. So I'm down to this being a row. And this is now the back side because your back and front swap. And that doesn't bother me. If you don't like that marled garter look, it might bother you because it's on one side for your increases and on the other side for your decreases. So every morning with my coffee, I do a row on my temperature blanket. And I printed off a little booklet to help me keep track. And it was from Billy and Ba, and I just bound it up with the bookbinder at my office so that I could easily track the temperatures, and then I check off the days as I knit them in. So I'm halfway through September, and as you can see, it's getting to where it actually fits more easily on these very long needles. But the reason that I'm showing you my temperature blanket again is because of another test knit that I started. So you can see all these colors here. Because this was the hotter months, this hot pink here is over 100 degrees. This coral color is 90 to 100. The light pink is 80 to 90. You can see we had some 70 to 80 degree days, and it's really like 70 to 79 and 80 to 89 and 90 to 90, or you know what I mean. Anyway, pointing to the wrong colors. Soon we will get back into some of these dark purples and aquas and teals, and maybe in December we'll even have so many leaves. We have a Great Pyrenees. He brings in a lot of leaves. Anyway, so some great colors hopefully coming back around depending on how cold it gets. And what does this have to do with another test knit? You might be asking. You might not be, but you might be. I started the Stella Quilt cushion test knit for Laura Penrose. And I'm not super far into it, but each square doesn't take that long. It comes with a wonderful schematic that you can color in that also shows you for every square exactly which edge you're picking up on, the directionality of the knitting, everything. So I had a ton of this hot pink left over. I had gone back to pick up an extra skein of the coral and the light pink, and for some reason my brain told me I needed another skein of the hot pink. And for the summer months, I ran through the skeins faster, obviously because it's knit on the diagonal. It took much more yarn to do a row for each of the summer months than it did the winter months, which are much shorter rows. So I had a ton of hot pink left over. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun to do the quilt cushion to match the temperature blanket? Now, the quilt cushion uses one less color, or maybe it's two less colors, the block I picked, than the temperature blanket. I don't know if I will use those additional colors on the back side for the closure, or if I will just leave them out completely. Because I have a ton of the pink, I may just do the whole back in the hot pink. It's really going to depend on where I end up with how much is left over once I finish the hot months. And I know I'm not going back to those like 80 and 90 degree temperatures anymore, or hopefully not. So I have done the bottom row. You work from the bottom up. So I've done the bottom row of my quilt cushion and started in on the next row across. So mine is the kind of quilt star where I have finished the purple and this gray will come up to meet the purple in the middle. And then this light blue will come up to meet, and then the next color will come in from the other side, and the pink is all around the outsides. So the next one up is pink first, and then a color, and then there'll be a solid pink in the corner. I can find one of Laura's examples and insert a photo, but this quilt cushion will be a lot of fun to have with the temperature blanket because they will coordinate. They'll both be totally washable, and I just think it's a really fun design, and I love working on the Sweet Shop blanket. No, that's not finished. And why did you ask that? But I just love the clever construction of this. I love doing short rows. I think Laura's really clever and I love her designs. So I really wanted to participate in the test knit, even though I have so much test knitting going on right now that I feel like I can't work on anything else. And it's not like I can't, but I don't want to back myself into a corner on the test knits. So I realize if you were around for the whip parade, I have a lot of whips to finish. I get that. So I'm feeling like the new year is going to be, there's going to be two things going on, hopefully. And you know this could change because like I follow the dopamine, but how I see it is there's going to be like some kind of whip finishing thing happening because I have 2 lentos to finish, the Sweet Shop blanket, all kinds of stuff. So there's going to be some whip finishing. There's the goal to knit my wonderful spouse a sweater. Like I really want to do that. It'd be cool to have it done for Valentine's Day, but that would only give me 6 weeks. And since our oldest child has a birthday in early January, sometimes that can be pushing it. And then the other thing is, I think I'm to the point where I want to do, I know there are so many garments I want to knit, but there are also so many other things, housewares and accessories and whatnots that I want to knit that I'm kind of desperate to cast some of those things on. So part of the whip finishing is going to be the Sweet Shop blanket because I love the construction and I love the way it looks. And that one I've done in my bedroom colors. So unlike the temperature blanket, which is going to be a living room family blanket, that one is going to be on the back of my knitting chair blanket for me. I have also, during Stephen West's birthday sale, purchased the puzzle blanket that he has. It's such clever construction. I love that it comes with a planning sheet, and also that each section tells you how many grams you need to do it. And that is going to be my scrappy blanket, because I know I am one of those people that has a lot of scraps to use, because I have a hard time letting go. And I think doing something like the puzzle blanket would be great, because I can weigh them and figure out each section. I also, as part of finishing things, want to get back to the GeoGradient, but I had to set that aside. I started the GeoGradient. I love the colors. Whole Super Soft is really stiff in the hands. It is not super soft, but I haven't blocked it yet. No, I didn't gauge swatch. It's a shawl. I don't care. And I desperately want to finish that shawl, because I think a large pink gradient shawl would be very useful in my wardrobe. But I just felt like it was putting too much pressure on me, and I wasn't getting where I needed to be with my Testknits. And so I just set it aside, but it has started, so it's a whip. So I want to finish it. That'll be part of whip finishing. There's just a lot that I want to do. And since I've taken on all these Testknits during the time when I would normally be gift knitting, I am thinking this is going to be a less knit Christmas than normal. I usually try to do something for each of the kids. I usually try to do something for my husband. A lot of times it's hats for everybody, because who doesn't need a new hat? But I just did a new hat for the younger one with the yarn he picked out when we were on vacation this summer. So he has that new DK weight Musselburgh that he says is a shared hat for the whole family, which is fine. And then of course each of my kids had picked out a bat for me to spin, because they wanted stuff from that. Speaking of which, I plied the first few bobbins from my son's spin, and this is not washed or thwacked or anything yet. There's parts of it that are overspun, underspun, whatever. However, the color is magical. I hope that's focusing, because I have absolutely no screen to look at it on. I'm always just guessing if I am in frame. But you can, if you look closely, you can see that there is a ply of the sparkle bat running through it, a ply of the gray purple wool of the Andes that I had ordered from Knit Picks. I believe I showed 2 podcasts ago maybe, and then the solid medium purple that I had ordered on Etsy. I can't remember the name of the dye studio, but I'll put it below. And so he loves it. I had him double check when I first started plying it that he liked the look. So he likes the look, and I need to ply up the rest of these bobbins. I do not have a jumbo flyer, so I can only ply onto a small bobbin. I have a jumbo flyer on my Christmas list, but for now I can only ply onto a small bobbin, so I can only ply what fits on a bobbin, and I stuff it as full as it'll go, but like this was the limit of the bobbin. I had to stop. So the bobbins I was plying from were very full, so there are still singles on those, so I can finish plying those, weigh it all up. It does seem to have come out to a worsted weight just like we wanted, so I'm pretty thrilled with that. He wants another sweater vest, but this time he wants a pullover style sweater vest as opposed to the button that the test knit I did for Aimee Sher earlier, like I guess it was the end of summer, because it was a back to school pattern. So he wants a pullover sweater vest, which is nice and easy because I can knit the body in the round, so that'll be great. And then if there's not enough, I have a whole nother bobbin from the art bat, and I can spin up the rest of the medium purple and the rest of the purple gray and ply those. So pretty excited about that. I have not taken a lot of time for spinning recently because of all the test knits. My daughter's been asking me if I have spun her art bat yet. I have not. And she wants like a little shrug. So I'm feeling like I'm going to have to ply her aqua with like, I don't know, I have an aqua pearl and cream bat from Dawning Dreams in my stash that I could spin to ply with the aqua art bat that she got and maybe get the yardage for a little tiny shrug. I'm gonna aim for like a DK weight. If you have a DK weight shrug pattern you like, feel free to drop that in the comments. And she wears, I would need it to go up to like a kid's 12 to 14, or the adult extra small works for her in a lot of things. So, but anyway, lots of knitting plans, but I have to finish some test knits first, and it's a good thing that they are test knits that I'm very excited about having the finished products. Right now, they are still feeling joyful and not super pressury, so I'd like to stay on top of them so that they can stay that way. I do really well with a deadline as long as I don't let it, I try not to procrastinate so that it doesn't all build up at once and just be like this crushing weight. But deadlines really do help me finish things, as is evidenced by the giant whip pile of things that are not test knits that are not finished. Deadlines help me. So, and I think that that's part of the possible ADHD that my therapist has recommended I be tested for. I still have not gotten formal testing, but she says that in her mind, like, it isn't necessary because she's 99% sure that I have it. All of the classic female adult symptoms, apparently. So anyway, that is really all I have for the knits today. I do have some acquisitions if you want to stick around for those. Once again, my parents went traveling and brought me back some local goodies. Okay, I'm gonna have to ask for forgiveness on a little bit of crinkling real quick because I hate to take all of this out of its protective packaging. So there's gonna be a little crinkling. So I have 300 grams of North Ronaldsay white from the Orkney Creative Hub. And this is fiber from the sheep that live in the northernmost part of the Orkney Islands and eat seaweed, and apparently that makes their fleece like super soft. It is mostly, hopefully you can see because I have no way to preview this, it is mostly cream color, but there are definitely darker bits, darker fibers in there, so it will have that beautiful natural look when it's spun up where there's just little flecks here and there of darker fibers. So they brought me 3 bags of this, so 300 grams, and a postcard showing where these sheep live. And I'm gonna make a whole bunch of crinkling sounds real quick, and I'm so sorry. These particular sheep live way up there. And it says that it is a family business, established in 1859 and still based in the same location opposite St. Magnus Cathedral in the heart of Kirkwall, capital of the Orkney Islands. It says we're the home of Ola Gori jewelry and carefully curate a cargo of the finest craft and design from Orkney and around the world. So they were touring the islands. They did actually get to go buy a lot of this stuff when they were up there. But in addition to the fiber for me to spin, they also bought a few skeins that they said one of the guys there occasionally will dye a batch, but not super often. So there's not a lot of color choice and it's not always available. But this is Isle of Oscary. I don't know. Somebody correct my pronunciation, please. Native Orkney fine wool yarn, individually hand-dyed North Ronaldsay wool from Oscary, hand-clipped organic wool from Orkney's seaweed-eating sheep. So each of these is 50 grams of DK, approximately 132 yards, 100% native wool. So I have 4 skeins, so I have 200 grams. You can see that the color has quite a bit of variation. And originally the guy told him it was all the same color, but it's not actually. This one has a different dye name on it. So I'll just alternate skeins or something, but you can see that the purpley bits in this one line up with the purpley bits in the other color, which is fine. 3 of them are called Orkney Sunset, and that one outlier is called Raspberry. So I'll have to decide what to do with this. It's not my normal color palette, but it could be really fun in something or as part of color work. It looks, and I have not opened it up yet, it looks like the way it's been dyed, it does a little bit of variegation or color shifting almost across the row. So there's redder parts and pinker parts. So I think it's going to end up, you know, like a variegated hand-dyed, but it's a more subtle variegation. So I think it could be fun as part of color work. And I don't know. I'm open to suggestions, but it's basically DK weight, and I have 200 grams. In addition to those 4 little hand-dyed skeins, I also have 4 skeins of the same brand of North Ronaldsay wool from Isle of Oscary. And these are Aran weight 100 gram balls. So I have 400 grams of, oh, I am throwing things. I'll have to find his ball band in a minute. And it is undyed, so it is natural slate gray. And so they've just combined the actual sheep colors to get this nice slate gray. If you look at it up close, you can tell that there's a little bit of brown in it as well. It's just a very natural color. It's really cool and not something that I would just run into here. And I think it's really fun to try things that are super small batch or local to some place. When we travel and I buy skeins for souvenirs, I try to buy things that are either specialties of that shop, local to the area, small batches, local makers. So I was really excited about trying this. And I had never heard of seaweed eating sheep before. And then of course I got this, and a while later I was watching one of Aimee Sher's podcasts. I think she was talking about spinning fiber, and she mentioned seaweed eating sheep here in the US, but they're somewhere off of New England. And I had never heard of those either. So I think it's really cool, but I have not at all decided what to do with that. I do have a dark green Aran weight. That was another one of the things they brought me back from Ireland, and I kind of wondered about a jacket using that heathered green and this natural gray, something with color work or mosaic knitting or something, somehow being able to combine the two, because I think I have 500 grams of the green and 400 grams of the gray, and each of the gray is 167 yards per 100 grams. And I think it's pretty close to that for the green. And so combining the two might give me enough for like a jacket. So that's what I'm thinking about. But I am totally open to pattern suggestions. I'm not going to get to that soon. Too many other things to finish, but I am excited to get to use it. I kind of want to knit up a little swatch and block it just to see how it feels post blocking. So I may do that just so that I can know what it's really going to be like when I wear it. I am feeling jacket though, especially for the dark green that they brought me from Ireland, because it is rustic, like very rustic. When I think of next to skin, I have a lot of merinos and like blends that lend themselves towards soft smoothness, and that green from Ireland is 100% rustic, non-superwash, like hardcore wool. But I'm still very excited to work with it. I want to work with more non-superwash because I do love the properties of it. It's just that I have a lot of hand-dyed currently, and a lot of times that is superwash because I think that I've heard it takes the dye easier. So I don't know, but anyway, that is really all I have for today. I feel like I've put in a lot of knitting time recently, but I don't have any finished objects to show. And that was kind of starting to wear on me mentally. So when I made myself the outlines, like basically like progress trackers for the Testknits that I have going, and I can actually color in the boxes and see visible progress. Sorry, I thought I heard a car in the driveway, but no. When I can see that visible progress, it really helps me, almost the same way as having a finished object. I get that little dopamine hit. Oh, I hit this goal. I can color it in, and then I hit the next goal and I can color it in. So that has helped me. If you're working on a long-term project and you really are feeling that itch because it's been a while since you had that I finished something dopamine hit, I highly recommend making yourself a progress tracker and break it down into as small a bits as you need. I swear, like for the Nutiden dress, I have a progress thing for every single body increase, because they are far enough apart that it feels like a milestone to hit that next A-line body increase. So I've been able to color those in. And even the places where I wanted to steam block it and check it again, I wrote in, and I've steam blocked it, I've checked my measurements, I've double checked my row gauge, I can color that in. So every little thing about it. Same thing for the Daft Days cardigan. So the longest section was that back panel. So I made every 4 rows of colored stripes, every 4 colored stripes. Not rows, but every 4 actual color stripes was a progress hit on my tracker. So, and then the one front panel, and then the other front panel. And now I'm doing the back flat. Well, there's a point where the back isn't knit as one big flat piece anymore, and you're doing the shoulders on both sides. So each shoulder is a progress point, and then actually doing the attaching the shoulders. I've got one for each side, because I may not do them both at the same sitting. and then each sleeve, the pickup, and then the decreases, and then finishing the sleeve, the ribbing, every little thing, so that there are enough dopamine hits to keep me moving forward. And I don't know if people who are not neurodivergent need that. Maybe they do, but I need that in order to keep me feeling upbeat about the creative process, because part of what I get out of the creative process is that dopamine hit of a finished object that I love and can use or can gift, or so I need some amount of that finishing. And since I'm not doing any even small project knitting, I brought out, and I didn't talk about it, that hat that I had started that I was carrying around for a while. And it's still been in my backpack, but I've been to the point I could carry the dress around. I'm not doing a whole lot of tiny knitting currently. So, I mean, this one's been on the needles since beginning of September. So I'm not even getting that like small project dopamine hit. So, I do get a bit of a dopamine hit every time I finish a month on my temperature blanket. Even if I'm still behind by the same number of days, just finishing a month is like a milestone. I can put a marker in, and it encourages me to keep working with it. But, you know, and even just checking off every day, checking off that I did that day's temperature row and stuff. So there's lots of little ways we can keep ourselves motivated. And if you have a particular way you keep yourself going through a long project, I would love to hear about it. I think I'm going to start putting a marker in each week on the dress, so I know where I was at the beginning of the week, since I've decided I need to do a certain amount of depth on the body each week. I know I could just remeasure constantly, but I think it'd be fun to put in a progress tracker and make sure I'm hitting that goal each week. But I am totally open to hearing your suggestions if you need to do something similar, or if you've done something similar in the past. I would love to hear about it. That's it for today. I hope to get back on a better schedule, but I say that a lot. I had meant to record last week, 2 weeks ago. I don't even remember now. And I ended up taking like a mental health day, just a break for myself, where there were no demands, and I actually just gave myself downtime. And I don't do that very often, so I felt like I needed it, and I thought I was going to be able to film like 2 days from then. And then, of course, because that's the way the world works, stuff came up and I was not able to film. I feel like every time I'm like, oh, I could film, and then I don't because I get to doing something else, then the time where I'm like, okay, well, I'll just film in 2 days, it never happens. Like, it always works out that if I put it off instead of doing it, it gets pushed even further down the line. And I don't know why. And maybe that's just a mental thing. Maybe it just feels like that, and it doesn't always work like that. But, oh, last thing, and I totally meant to mention it at the beginning. I may insert another clip about it earlier in the podcast so I don't lose people. But Christmas will be here soon, or winter holidays, whatever winter holiday you celebrate. So I have opened up my Holiday Joy card sign up. I will absolutely send you a winter holiday card. You do not have to reciprocate. There is an option for entering your email address if you want me to send you my address. But I think everybody likes to get a little bit of snail mail, and I know that getting those cards in the mail during the dark and often hectic days of the winter holidays is just really nice and heartwarming, and I love it. So because I love it so much, I want to send that joy and love and energy out into the world. That's part of the Christmas magic for me, is getting to send that out to everyone else. So I encourage you to sign up. You absolutely do not have to send me a card back. There is also a place on there. I'm putting together a tea advent calendar, hopefully from around the world. for the kids and I. Last year we did the Adagio tea advent calendar, and this year I would like to make my own. So if you would like to swap some tea, there's an option to do that in the sign up as well. And I would send you some from our stash, and you just send like 1 or 2 bags or 1 or 2 teaspoons of loose tea in a baggie. I have found that generally I can do 1 or 2 tea bags inside a card for the standard 1 ounce postage rate. So if that's an option that you would like to take advantage of, please fill out the form. It will be linked below. And I will add the link to the link tree in my Instagram, and that will remain open, I don't know, through mid-December, to sign up to at least get some holiday joy. So please, please do sign up for that. And that's all. Take care. Have a great week, and I hope you get to do something fun, creative, and fulfilling.